Welcome to Hardy Party of 5.5.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Do you hear that music, Rebecca?
Do you hear it? It makes me want to go watch football.
Yes, it does.
I love it so much. Like literally, I get a little like something inside whenever you hear that music. I really do.
It gets you fired up.
It does. It really does. I probably watch more college football than NFL, but I do watch NFL, and we have a fantasy team. Usually we don't share a fantasy team, but this year we are.
Well, yeah, when I was inviting people into our fantasy league, I forgot to count myself.
Yeah.
So we ended up with 13 people instead of the limit of 12 that we had.
Yeah.
So we became partners.
We became partners.
Co-owners.
And I didn't get to do my very favorite thing about fantasy football.
What's that?
Pick the name.
Oh, yeah. Do you know our team name?
What is it?
A Megapint.
Oh, goodness.
So there you go.
It's not even a football thing.
I know, but it sounded cool at the time.
Yeah. Like, I like cool names, like Juju on that beat.
What were you last year?
Ooh, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't remember.
Was it something about Dak Attack? Or...
Oh. No, it was Zeke and Destroy.
Zeke and Destroy. There you go. Yeah, I always kind of go non-football because everybody else goes to football.
But it's a football league.
I know.
Like,
I like the irony of it. I don't know.
You're fired. You're fired as the manager of our fantasy team.
The league hasn't even started.
And you're out.
Can you take me out as the marketing guy and I could still be coaching with you?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm out as the marketing guy for our team.
Yes.
But I'm still co-coaching because you don't want to look at the lineup every week.
It's too late because everything you decided to market for the season's already set up. Like it's not a good plan. But yeah, okay, for sure you're out.
But I'm on the hot seat though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless we do really well.
Right. Yeah, your coaching still has to be determined, like where we end up. Now we usually end up pretty high, don't you?
We usually do pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't, but you do.
Yeah.
I like fantasy football, because you only have to check your team
once a week. Yep.
And
on Thursday.
Yes. And then you can just move on with your life. This is why I'll never play any other fantasy league, because I'm not keeping up with anybody's pitch count.
When I was a little younger, I tried to do baseball and basketball. And it's just, you have to look at it every day, see who's pitching and see who's has a game. And it's
nobody has time for that.
That's right.
So today we have on a really so cool guest.
We really do. I cannot believe he decided to join us.
Yes. His name is Kyle Youmans. He is a broadcaster, a real live broadcaster. And he's so cool. Oh my gosh. He's got like the coolest voice. You can just tell why he's in broadcasting.
Yeah, it's like a sports scented candle.
Yeah, a sports scented. That's right. It is. And he is really cool. He gives us all the dish on the Cowboys, but also like how he got into broadcasting. Because I know a lot of kids are like, want to do that. Like, I mean, it's he's got a cool story.
And he gave us some industry secrets that you're going to hear about, like what they have in the booth that helps them call the game.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
And I know we have someone on this podcast that can help him out with something he needs to develop.
Some software
he needs to develop. If you want to hear more about that, well, you're just going to have to listen up, because here's our interview with Kyle. Kyle, we just welcome you to Hardy Party 5.5. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a lot of Cowboy fans that listen to us. One sitting right next to me, and our son. Oh my goodness, he's just gonna be over the moon. We have a son that plays college football.
You have the shirt.
Yeah, I'm wearing the shirt. He's wearing a.
There you go.
Yeah. So he's just gonna love listening to this interview. We have so many people excited about this. So thank you for joining us. And our other son, our youngest son, he actually at one point was like interested in broadcasting. So how did you get into that? I mean, so many kids, they're like, I want to be a sports. I either want to play sports or talk about sports. So how did you get into that?
Well, I was one of those kids. I grew up playing sports, and I played basketball, football, baseball all the way through. And really baseball was where that's where I was most talented in. I wasn't very quick. So whenever it was short spurts of running, that was where I was at best. Or I could stay still. I was actually a pitcher. So when I could stand still, that was when I was even better. But just kind of the love of sports started when I was young. I mean, it's really funny because even later on when I made the decision about senior year of high school that this was something I really wanted to pursue, my parents were like, yeah, we knew you wanted to go into that, because when I was growing up in Waco, instead of getting the Hot Wheel cars like any other child, like any other little boy, I would go and get the NASCAR die casts, and then I would set up my dad's camcorder and I would race, and I would call the races.
Oh, wow.
On the camcorder, like I saw on TV
my gosh.
with my dad. And so I was a big NASCAR fan growing up, and so it was NASCAR and then football on Sundays. We were huge college football fans. So I totally get you with the SNU shirt and everything. And so long story short, basically junior year of high school, I started kind of thinking of where I wanted to go to school, and I needed to find a career first. Is kind of the way my dad wanted me to do it, is find a career, then we'll pick a school. And ultimately sports broadcasting was where I saw myself going, because I never really had a future playing in sports, but I knew I wanted to be around it. Then we started looking at colleges along the way, and I ended up at the University of North Texas, which could not have been a better fit for me. I really enjoyed my time there, but it was my dad kind of pushing me toward doing something that I loved. And he does stuff like that all the time too. He works the sideline for Baylor athletics and does a lot of things with them just to kind of be around sports, because he loves it. My mom every Saturday will send me a "Get up, it's game day" text message, because she loves sports too. And so it's kind of the culmination of that, and then doing what I love. And ultimately, when I got to North Texas, I found out not only do I love sports, but I love the broadcasting side of it, and the tech side of video editing and audio and kind of running a production. I really liked that side as well. So it was the marriage of those two things that kind of led me into the career that I have.
That's so cool. So are you a Baylor Bear fan, I guess, since Waco?
Yeah, I grew up a big fan of Baylor, and now not going to the school and paying hard-earned tuition, I feel like I can't be as big of a Baylor fan as I once was. Because I did have friends that went to Baylor and paid the outrageous tuition costs that it does cost to go there. But going to North Texas, that's my number one, but easily number two. I got the Baylor Bears.
Easily number two. Yeah. So we're in Burleson. So you pass through.
Yeah.
You pass through Waco and Burleson every time you go to Waco. We're very close to that. But one of our kids also went to Oklahoma State. So if we're looking at Big 12, we've got to go Pokes. But Baylor, I always go watch women's college basketball every year with a friend of mine. So of course, we always go to see a Baylor game. So who was your other team growing up as a kid? Any other, like, what about professional teams?
Yeah, so I grew up a Cowboys fan. That wasn't my number one. I think if I had to choose like a number one professional team, it would have been the Rangers. I really grew up a baseball fan, of course, like I said. And the Texas Rangers were my number one favorite. When I was in high school was the 2 years where they were in the World Series, and they had World Series days at school, and I would bring like bags of Texas Rangers gear. So my friends that didn't have any Rangers gear would be forced to wear it. Yeah, exactly. Just naturally got to get them to be a part of it. So I'd say Rangers number one, but the Cowboys were a close second. I always loved the Cowboys, and outside of college football, I cheered for them. And now if Baylor had a player that I really liked go on to the NFL, I would cheer for them as individuals. Like it was really tough when RG3 went to Washington. When he ended up there, that was a conflict of interest for me. That really
you couldn't go there with him.
Yeah, it was tough. Now I still cheered for RG3 when he wasn't playing for the Cowboys, but it's kind of hard to do that when in the same division. So definitely, I had some days where I wore a Tony Romo shirt underneath an RG3 jersey, and it was. If anybody found pictures of that today, I would totally be ousted. But always was a Cowboys fan. Just had a little Baylor in there as well.
That's hilarious.
That's cool.
Babe, I think he just said that he was in high school in 2010, 2011.
I know.
Yep. I graduated from Midway in 2014. That was Midway High School in Waco. Yep.
Boy, the 2010 and 11, those were hard years as Ranger fans.
Don't remind me about 2011.
I know. We actually talked to Jim Sundberg earlier this week.
Yeah.
We're kind of going over that, and he didn't want to talk about it either.
Yeah, that might be one of the last times I've sports cried.
That's right.
Oh, that's a good term, sports cry.
cry.
That's a good hashtag. I like it. We're gonna take that.
Love
Okay,
it.
we just talked to a couple of the Savannah Bananas. Do you know who they are?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they're so fun. And then we also had a couple of minor leaguers that from the Cleveland Railroaders that lived with us a couple of seasons ago. So you did some broadcasting for minor league?
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
It was a blast. It really was. Now,
So fun.
I would say it was a blast, but it was also a grind. I mean, 140 games, and we traveled with the team.
Wow.
I was with the West Virginia Power. It was a Seattle Mariners affiliate. Now, now they're in the Appalachian League, which is kind of like a subsidiary league to the minor leagues. But they were in the South Atlantic League at the time, and they had games in Columbia, South Carolina. They had games in Greenville. They had games in Rome, Georgia, Augusta.
Wow.
I mean, it was all over the place, really. And so that was a ton of fun. Lexington, Kentucky was one of my favorites too. And was part of that program for a season. I only went up there for a year and did some games with them, but then came back to Texas and just got lucky in the timing of a Cowboys production job opening up, and took advantage of that and have ridden it since then. But I mean, the games that I got to call in West Virginia were outstanding. I mean, with the Mariners being where they were as a franchise, right now their number one starter, Logan Gilbert, was our number one starter on opeing day. Oh, wow. Their rookie phenom in Julio Rodriguez, who's going to win the AL Rookie of the Year, just signed a $500 million contract as a rookie. And was stealing the hearts of baseball fans everywhere during the Home Run Derby. He was there for the entirety of that season. So really, really fun year, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world.
Wow.
Yeah, I know when our Railroaders were here, they played 100 games in 120 days.
Yeah.
Like we barely saw them.
Yeah.
That's just a crazy schedule.
I mean, they would drag in at 2 a.m. after they at least got some food after the game, and then they were sleeping in a little bit, and then they'd get up. I mean, they were at the field
early.
They'd be at
practice by 1.
It was crazy. They had a crazy schedule.
Okay, speaking of crazy, on top of everything else you do Friday night. You announce Friday Night Lights. So what's it like doing Friday Night Lights in Texas?
So it's nothing like it. I mean, and you guys know from Burleson, I called the Elks game last week. And
did you?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. It didn't go well for Burleson and Coach John and company. But that's the thing is growing up in Waco, Midway High at the time when I was going to school was really, really good. And they won a lot of games and were fortunate enough to make a couple deep runs into the state championships. I got to North Texas. And I started with Highland Park. I was their sideline reporter, did some play-by-play for the Highland Park Scots, and one of the most vaulted athletic programs, not even just football programs. They're the winningest football program in state of Texas history, but they're one of the vaulted athletic departments as a whole, and I got to do a ton of stuff with them. Then I moved on to Whataburger Friday Night Stars, which was recorded in the Cowboys podcast studio every Friday night. Basically a scoreboard show. We'd go around the area, hit a bunch of the DFW games, and we'd kind of pull scores and highlights and send out reporters. And that was where I finally made the connections with the Cowboys to where they hired me the following season. And I continued to do that. Then the year after that, COVID hit. So that show couldn't happen anymore. Mm-hmm. And I started doing games with Frisco ISD and with Parish Episcopal High School as well. And I did them for a couple of years. So high school football has always been a part of my journey, even back when I was in college, back when I was in high school. I mean, I did an internship at ESPN Central Texas, a radio station down there. Guess what? I did a ton of high school stuff. So I've always been around Friday Night Lights. And even if my career, hopefully it continues to grow and I continue to take steps up, I still want to be involved in some shape, fashion, and form with high school football. It's just, it's the purest of the way that the sport is played. I love the stories of these student athletes that either overcome adversity, have really grown into a brand or have a future brighter than they even realize and moving forward. So those types of stories always have intrigued me. So anytime I get a chance to call some games, which this year, Thursday and Friday nights, I call games for the Frisco ISD Sports Network.
So I have a logical question for you because I'm very logical about this. This is serious. I have a serious question. Do you go over all the names on the roster before you have to announce them?
Yeah, I do.
You like go, because I'm thinking there's so many that you could mess up. So
you want an industry secret? It's going to take me to go into my bedroom, but I'll give you an industry secret.
I want to see it.
We got to see it.
I want to see it.
Okay. A couple seconds here. Okay, so these aren't high school boards, but they're laminated and they've got a ton of information on them and they look cooler. Yeah. But these are what they call spotter boards, and this is for my college games for ESPN. So this is the University of North Texas.
Mackerel.
Oh, yeah. My God.
So you've got it organized by position, but here's the entire roster right here. So you've got the whole roster, numbers all the way through. This is the offense. So your quarterback starts in the middle. He's got the biggest storyline board there. Your backup quarterback and your third string quarterback.
Okay.
And they've got high school. They've got height and weight. They've got their years, and then they've got a bunch of information about them here. And then you've got your running backs, your tight ends, your inside receivers, your outside receivers, and your offensive line. Then you flip it. You've got the defense. So then you've got your defensive line, your linebackers, and your secondary, and you've got a bunch of stats. You've got coaching. You've got coordinators and team stats.
That is crazy.
Yep. So I mean, this way, I mean, without even looking at this, now I am calling the North Texas game this weekend.
Yeah.
But North Texas entering in at 3-6 overall. They did win their last matchup against UTEP 45-43 back in 2020. Austin Ani in his first year as a starter.
Oh my God.
Texas. I mean, boom. It's a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
It's all right there.
So where did that sheet come from? Did you make that sheet?
Make it. So
yeah,
so I make it for the high school games are they're the same template. I flipped it.
For sure. Yeah.
But they're the same template, but a lot less of the notes. It'll still have their name, it'll have their number, it'll have their position and where they're starting and their backups and stuff. And then it'll have their year and their height and weight.
The phonetical pronunciation of their name.
Oh yeah.
God.
So I'm trying to find one as it here. Oh, there you go. Io Adai.
Yes. Oh my! And it's got his name above it. How to actually say it? That's hilarious.
So yeah,
that is a fancy tool. Listen, you can market those.
I've been told that before. I have a graphic design background, and I can't take full credit for this template specifically. I got this from John Morris initially, like the pure template of it, and then over the years I've added and taken away and kind of shifted some stuff around
to make it work for you.
It's my own.
That was a good practical question, babe.
Super impressive. Yeah. I'm the logical.
Wow, that's a lot of work for every game.
It is. It helps out when you get to see the same teams.
Yeah.
So like North Texas, I've got 5 North Texas games, so I only have to make it one time, and then I just change it and update it from there.
Right. Yeah.
Right now, with us being in week 2 of the college football season and week 3 of high school football, it gets to be a little bit. So like I've got games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week, and then the Cowboys and Buccaneers coverage on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So the Thursday and the Friday, it's really quick. You got to get all these information, throw it all together, and talk to the coaches, throw that into notes. And then Saturday, it's a lot more like this, where it's like you don't want to be missing anything because it's a college game and it's ESPN. You want to do a good job for it. So, and there's much more information at your fingertips too. Just whenever you're.
Let me tell you where the money is here, Kyle. It's on a software that you could just put the name in and it drops in the most current information you need about that player.
Yeah, have like boxes pre-made. Somebody's putting in all this information.
Yes.
And then you click it and you click it down. I like that idea. I need to find a software engineer or somebody.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you might have a career there too.
Okay. So you went from podcasting, the high school games, the Cowboys heard about you, get on with the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about something that happened just the other night. You got to do play-by-play for the Cowboy game.
Yeah.
So what was that like? How cool was that?
Oh man, dream come true. Because especially when I started going into sports broadcasting, my first thought and what is still my passion is play-by-play. That's what I want to do as an end goal. And the studio hosting with the TV side, and then the podcast hosting, that's all great. And I love doing that stuff too. And it's got its own draw to me and to my passion of the business. But play-by-play is always, in my mind, the most fun that I have, because you get to be a part of the game. You get to be a part of the action. And yeah, I got a chance to call the Los Angeles Chargers and Cowboys at SoFi Stadium. And I mean, I've gotten to call a bunch of college games and, of course, a ton of high school games from some of the coolest venues that you've ever seen. But really getting to settle into a full SoFi Stadium and get to call an actual TV broadcast was something. If I never get a chance to do it again, I get to say that I've done it. I got to call an NFL game. And so that was so much fun. Now, hopefully that's not the last time I get to call an NFL game, or at least a big game like that. Still striving, still young, trying to get to where I can in the business. But I'm so thankful for the opportunity. And I got great feedback, which is also a good sign, is that I hopefully did a good job. And a little bit nervous, but it was still really, really fun along.
I think you have a lot of games, play-by-play games in your future for the NFL.
Yeah.
I have no doubt about it.
He was very impressed.
Yeah.
As long as you guys put in a good word for me, then I'm.
That's right. I'll talk to Jerry.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm on the helicopter with him. I'll let him know how it's going.
So, multi-sport broadcaster, how do you keep up the energy for every game? Also, second question, I hear you're getting married soon. Have you thought about how you're going to balance that?
Yeah.
I mean, we got 30 years of marriage under our belt, so we can help you out here.
Yeah. Hey, I may be hitting you up for it at some point, but yeah, that was actually going to be my answer to the first question. I've got a great support system around me. I mean, my fiance, Lorena, we actually met at a TV station at North Texas. And so we know the business together, and she does some hosting as well. She does some like on-court MC stuff, and she's done some entertainment hosting with Disney Cruise Line in the past. And I'm just as proud as her of her as she is with me. And so we kind of understand the business. And while there are times where she's like, oh my gosh, it's football season, this is not okay, or training camp where I'm gone for a month and I'm spending a month away from her, that's always a little bit tough. But she does know it's a passion of mine. She knows that I'm still young and I'm trying to make it in the business, and I'm trying to grow a brand and grow in terms of talent. I mean, and just continue to work at my craft. She understands what it takes. And I mentioned him earlier, but my dad, and then of course my mom, I mean, they've been a supporter of me from the very beginning, and they've helped me through some tough financial times, and then have helped me really build a foundation for me that allows me to feel comfortable when going and doing these events, and keeping a confidence level and being able to try and grow in that aspect. So it takes a lot of time, and a lot of people don't realize how much it really does take to call a game, or to go through a pre and post game coverage and do that kind of stuff. A lot of people just kind of turn on the TV and they expect these people just to be like them talking about the game. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's so much fun when it all kind of comes together and you get it together to make it work.
Yeah, and truthfully, you only talk about the people calling the game if they're doing a bad job.
Yeah, you only really notice when you're like, oh, what is this guy talking about?
What are they doing? What are they doing?
You mute the TV.
Back. Yeah,
I'm sure I've had plenty of muters over the years. I'm sure.
Or you turn it down just low enough so you can hear the crowd and stuff. Not doing that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so the Cowboy season is starting this Sunday. So we're going to pick your brain about what you think the Cowboys are going to do. And he probably knows everything because he's got a whole sheet. Okay, so give us a breakdown on some of these position groups first. The offensive line, which just lost a big player. So how's that looking right now?
Yeah, Tyron Smith out for a couple months. He had a hamstring knee injury, and it's one of those things that's been frustrating for Cowboys fans, just based solely on the fact that he's been hurt before. I mean, it's been a matter of when, not if, he gets hurt, and now it's hurt for a long period of time. Luckily for the Cowboys, they made a first-round draft pick at the offensive line spot, and it was initially going to be Tyler Smith, their rookie out of Tulsa, that would fill in at left guard. Now they're going to move him back to left tackle, where he played at Tulsa during his time in college. So they had a backup plan. It's still question mark on whether or not that backup plan is still going to be good enough to really propel this offense. Luckily, they do have Dak Prescott back there who had a great season last year. Number one offense in terms of yardage, number one in scoring. They lost a couple of key pieces as the wide receivers go moving forward, but that offensive line has been probably the biggest question mark. And if Dak's behind it, usually you feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So who's going to be the backup for Dak? Because they released Cooper Rush. Did they bring him back and now he's the backup?
So they brought back him, and they also cut and brought back Will Greer as well. So there's three quarterbacks that are on the roster, two of which, though, are on the practice squad. So we don't actually know who is going to be that first backup to Dak Prescott. If we had to guess, I would probably say Cooper Rush. I think Cooper Rush is going to be the backup initially, but they brought Will Greer on. They released Ben DiNucci, who had been around since the 2020 draft. But those three guys are really what they're going to run with in terms of the quarterback position.
So defensive line and the cornerbacks, how's the defense looking? Because defense was pretty good last year.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be better this year. I really do. I think this defense has a chance to be unbelievable. I really do. I think you've got playmakers on all three levels, which is what coordinators dream about. You've got DeMarcus Lawrence, Sam Williams, Osa Odighizuwa, Neville Gallimore, all of which that are budding players on the defensive line that you expect to really have good years. At the second level, you've got three former Pro Bowlers. You've got Leighton Vander Esch. You added Anthony Barr as a veteran linebacker. And then you've got Micah Parsons, who's coming off a Defensive Rookie of the Year season, had 13 sacks a year ago, and he's looking to even best that this year. I mean, he said in an interview recently, he's trying to go for 20 sacks, which would break the single season sack record by a mile. And so he's really excited about what he's bringing to the table. And then Mike McCarthy said in his press conference today that he's really ramped up over the last couple of practices. He is locked in and ready to go starting for Tampa Bay. But and then on the third level, what else can you say but Trayvon Diggs? He had 11 interceptions last year. Then you had Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis, who both had career years with 3 interceptions. They feel better about the secondary and what they bring to the table this year than they have in maybe 25 years. So the defense looks more talented. They look more put together because of Dan Quinn and what he has done as the defensive coordinator, now returning for his second year. There's a lot of excitement about what this defense could do.
Wow.
And Diggs reminds me of Deion Sanders, just the way he's kind of, I mean, he's just got that flair and that swag.
Yeah.
Swagger that
he's
you're
a little quieter with his swag than Deion was.
Yeah, but you can see it when he's playing there.
Oh, yeah. Prime time. He was big, brash. He wasn't going to let you forget who he is. Whereas Trayvon has got the swagger. He's got the cool factor.
Yeah.
He looks fresh. He plays well. Like it's a different approach. But yeah, I can totally see that.
Not quite as loud though. Yeah.
No.
So, okay, do they have a kicker yet? I've been trying to follow. Do they officially have a kicker they can kick field goals?
Officially, yes. Unofficially, you should ask whoever because it's going to be different answers down the line. They have Brett Maher, who's on the roster, and he, of course, played for the Cowboys a couple years ago, actually owns the 4 longest made field goals in Cowboys franchise history. He went away after missing some extra points, some kicks underneath 40 yards. And then, of course, they brought in Greg Zuerlein. He came in for 2 years. Now he's gone. Then they brought in some young guys in Liram Hajrullahu and Jonathan Garibay to where they could really they wanted those guys to win the job. Ultimately, they didn't. And so they brought back Brett Maher, and that's who they have moving forward. But I think that's a position that's still completely in flux. I think if Maher does not continue to find a way to be successful, then I think you're going to see some changes and maybe even find some finagling with the roster to get another kicker in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So who are some young players we can look out for that maybe aren't on the radar right now, but you think that are going to make an impact this season?
It's interesting. The wide receiver position is so odd right now because there's 2 rookies that made the roster, and that's Jalen Tolbert, who was a 3rd-round pick. I mean, he's the top 100 pick in the draft in April, a guy who you really could think you could count on, had great tape during his time in South Alabama, but he's been taking some time to adjust into the offense and really, really digest the playbook and be in the right place and convert on some plays. Cowboys are doing what they can to get him ready for week number 1. But then there's this guy named Dennis Houston. And Dennis Houston came out of a small school. Nobody really knew about him. He was an undrafted guy that they signed later on. He had a fantastic camp in Oxnard. I mean, he was one of the favorites for Dak Prescott to throw the football to. He came out and played well in the preseason games. He ultimately made the roster after just playing better than Jalen Tolbert and beating out the guy who got drafted in the third round. So those two guys are battling it out to be active on Sunday. And I think those are two guys that at some point are going to make an impact. One more on the defensive side, Sam Williams, who's a second-round pick out of Ole Miss. He set the single-season sack record for Ole Miss last year, got drafted in the second round. Dan Quinn absolutely loves him. He has a similar skill set in terms of speed, change of direction, and agility that Micah Parsons did as a rookie. Doesn't mean he's going to be Micah Parsons. He actually plays a completely separate position. He's more of an edge rusher rather than Micah Parsons being a linebacker. But Sam Williams is going to have a great opportunity to really impress some people, kind of tie that defense, that front seven together, and find a way to be succul.
Go ahead.
He gave us all that information without looking at his little laminated paper.
He's already memorized.
I've been looking at Ben's eyes have been over the whole time.
Cowboys are different. That one I've got that one on lock. Now, basically when we get, here's another industry secret. When we get into pregame and like postgame stuff, we have extra stats. So we know the players, we know their backstory. So this stuff isn't necessarily needed all the time. So then we get these like extra note packets that have like extra detailed stats.
Extra details. Wow.
Tom Brady and Dak Prescott each ranked in the top 5 in passing touchdowns in 2011. Brady had 5,300 passing yards, which was first in the NFL, and 43 touchdowns. Dak Prescott had a 68% completion percentage, which was fourth in the NFL, and 37 passing touchdowns, which was tied for fourth. So it's like all stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Brady and Prescott each ranked in the top 2 in yards per game since 2020. Only quarterbacks to average over 300 yards per game over that span.
Wow.
I don't know off the top of my head.
You don't know that off the top of your head, yeah.
Well, that's where we start putting notes together and finding.
Right, for sure.
So we were going to talk about some people that have pressure on them, but I want to just cut to the chase. How big a hot seat is Mike McCarthy on this year?
You know, it's interesting because inside the building, it really feels like the players are bought in. They like Coach McCarthy. They like the way that he runs the team. They like what he brings from a realist standpoint. He's just a guy that understands that these guys are professionals. He understands that they're going to do what they need to do to be in a spot to be good. And he's more of a manager than he is really a coach. He's still going to help develop guys, but he's going to do that through his coordinators. He's going to do that through overarching plan. And then, of course, game time decisions. That's where he really needs to be better this year than he has been over the last 2 years. He needs to win. And I mean, fact of the matter is, that's what it is with an NFL head coach, especially with the Dallas Cowboys. You have to win, and you have to win consistently in the playoffs. That's the other thing is the Jones family, Cowboys Nation, people are tired of losing in the playoffs. They want to make a run. So I would say if he doesn't at least win a playoff game, you're really having a deep conversation on whether or not he's the head coach next year, partly because his contract wasn't renewed and he doesn't have anything after this year. So it will be a conversation at some point. So I think it's not hot in terms of him being fired, but if he wants to continue to be the head coach, he's got to find a way to be a winner in the playoffs.
When you talked about playmaking or play calling, and I've noticed lately that more teams are even deep in their own territory. They're going for it on fourth down. I know the Cowboys seemed to do that a lot last year. Yeah. So is there a percentage that they're using on that, or is this just a gut feeling? Or
so I think it's more so the use of analytics kind of playing its way into football, because there are analytics that tell you, hey, there's a percentage in this situation where you should go for it, in this situation where you should not go for it, even though it might be in the same yard line, same down and distance. It's a different part of the game, so maybe you should go for it. That it's analytics and the way that different percentages can be used in play calling that NFL teams are using. Whereas in the past, you would probably err on the conservative side because it's all up here. and it's all gut feeling, and it's all guys getting to that point and then having to make a quick brash decision without any extra leeway. Imagine, I mean, if you're going up to a decision and it's 4th and 3, and the true percentage is your 70% a conversion rate on a 4th and 3 in this specific scenario. If you didn't know that initially, you would say, okay, maybe we go ahead and punt it away. But then you have that number pop in and it says, oh, okay, 70%. That's actually pretty decent. Let's go ahead and go for it. Why not? It's a couple of those situations along the way that will lead to coaches being more aggressive in that way.
Well, and they love you when you make it, and they hate you when you don't. So
yeah,
that's just how it goes with coaching, I guess. So
yeah.
Okay, so what games do you have circled on the schedule that you're most excited about seeing?
Yeah, I think really these first 2 weeks are going to tell a lot, and then also week 5 against the Rams, because you've got Tom Brady, who won a Super Bowl 2 years ago in Tampa Bay. You've got Cincinnati, who went to the Super Bowl last year. Those are your first 2 games, and they're both at home. So you want to try and win both of those games, of course. But if you come out 1-1, you're feeling good. If you're coming out 0-2, you're not feeling good. You're going up against 2 really good teams. Then you play 2 divisional foes. You've got the Giants, and then you've got Washington. So you've got Giants, Commanders. Those are both winnable games. You should at least get back to 2-2, even if it is a thumbs down in the start of the season. But then you go on the road and you go to SoFi Stadium and you play the LA Rams, team that won the Super Bowl last year. So then there's another benchmark on whether or not you should be solid or not so solid.
Right. Yeah.
And then you come back and you play Monday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. So these first 6 weeks of the season, a lot of coaches talk about quarters. You play the season in quarters. So first quarter, you were 3-1. Second quarter, you were 2-2, and you kind of go that way. It's really the first 6 games. It's almost playing the season in thirds. You play the first 6 games, see where you're at, and then I think the second, 2/3 are going to be better for this Cowboys team. But man, they've got a tough stretch starting off, and I can't really think past a whole lot of that. I know he goes back to Green Bay, plays at Lambeau, and it's the first return of Mike McCarthy in week 10. But I think those first 6 weeks are going to really decide how this Cowboys season is going to go.
Yeah.
Well, and we have to win game 2 because we're our son Jake is getting married too next year.
Okay.
His fiance, their family are big Bengal fans. So we're bringing down the guys from her family, and we're going to go see the game there.
Nice.
So the Cowboys have to win that game. So you need to let Dak and them know that.
I'll let them know. I'll go ahead and put that forward. See, and my fiance and her brother is not a Cowboys fan, but they're the ones that are going to that game because my fiance really likes Joe Burrow and she wants to see Joe Burrow play. And then her brother wants to see Joe Burrow play. And he already ordered like the white Bengals.
Oh, gosh.
He's got the shiesty sunglasses that he had flames. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It definitely will be, but I'll let him know to get a win.
Okay. It's a big game for your family too, then. So
yeah, it is.
That reminds me of the Christmas that we made a bet with my cousin, who their family's big.
They were Cardinal
fans, and we said if the Rangers win this, then we'll wear. You have to wear Ranger wear to Christmas dinner, and if the Cards win, then we have to wear Cards. We had to wear Card stuff.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, that one. That's why you don't want to talk about 2011, right there.
Right.
That's right.
It got really personal.
Yeah.
So,
Also, I'm the worst trash talker ever, and then I have to back it up with wearing
Cardinal stuff.
bad clothes. So
yeah, luckily my mom was the best trash talker ever, so I got that one. My dad's like the nicest, most like chill, easygoing guy that there ever has been. My mom is a pit bull. She will get after you with her words and with her actions. She'll get you. So I got a little bit of both. I get it when
good. That is a little bit like us.
That's a good balance. That's a good balance.
Like us.
So can the Cowboys win the NFC East? I know we're kind of just looking at those first 6 games, but what do you think overall? Can they do it?
Can they? Absolutely. Will they? It depends on how healthy they stay, and of course, some of the execution in those first 6 games. Because if you drop a game to Philly, and you worst case scenario drop probably 4 or like those 3 other games, then you're
Mhm.
2-4, and you've got to really climb your way back into some type of contention,
Yeah.
later on. And Minnesota's expected to be way better this year. Green Bay's still good this year. You got them in that middle third of the season. So it really does get interesting if you don't have success early on. Can they, and are they talented enough to win the division? Absolutely. And I think I would consider them the favorite to win the division, but they've got a couple early tests that they're going to have to pass. Whereas last year, almost every time you had a benchmark game, you didn't pass it. Really, the only one that you felt great about was the Chargers win in week 2, and then the Patriots win on the road in overtime in week 7. So those were the 2 games last year out of really the big benchmarks along the way that you didn't fail. So you can't fail those benchmarks as often. You got to be more consistent against good teams here in 2022 if they're going to win that division.
Okay, let's hope so. So what's your prediction on a record, and how far do you think they're going to go in the playoffs?
I think they get to double-digit wins. I think get at least 5 wins, hopefully 6 in your division. So that if you get the 6 wins again, it's the first time they've gone back-to-back, I think, undefeated in the division since the mid-90s. So that would be a great win for this Cowboys team moving into the playoffs. But I'd say probably 5 wins get you in the contention, and then you stack up 5 wins outside of that. So you're either 10-7 or 11-6 by the time the season comes to a close. I'll say they make the playoffs, whether they're NFC champions or not, or they're in the wild card. I think they make the playoffs either way because the NFC is so wide open. And then I actually think they're built to make a run playoffs wise, more so than they're ready to play at week 1. I really do.
Yeah.
I think if they stay healthy along the way, they've got a chance to win a playoff game, maybe 2, and then really get rolling. But it's one of those things that you got to believe it when you see it, because even last year, 12-5, you were fully healthy. You had everybody available, and then you lost in week 1 against the 49ers. So that's kind of what it feels like this year. Is it's a resilient feel of no matter what we go through, no matter what the ups and downs are, the end of the day, you got to make the playoffs, and then you got to win games.
Yeah.
Be playing your best at playoff time.
That's
Okay,
right.
I'm fired up now. Okay, you do this.
Kyle, I'm impressed with your head knowledge. I'm really impressed with your little sheet that you have. So impressive. I'm looking forward to your software that you're going to develop.
Yeah, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, you're going to figure it out. But I'm mostly impressed with you understanding that support system and how much that's helped you become who you are and how awesome you are at this job that you've been gifted with. And we're just excited to follow this season along with you. We thank you so much for taking time out. I know it was a late night for you and you've got a busy schedule.
I've got a couple hours ahead of me. I got to make more of these. So
yeah.
I'm working.
Hey, that software would help you out tonight.
You're exactly right.
Well, we appreciate it, Kyle.
Thank you so much. Go Cowboys.
Yep, absolutely, guys.
And congratulations
you having
on your wedding.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Thanks,
take
Kyle.
care, man.
There was that sports scented candle. It really was true.
I know. It was very relaxing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can see why we would keep the volume up if he's broadcasting.
That's right. We're never turning it
We're
down. when
never
Kyle's
turning
up.
his voice down.
That's right.
That's very nice. Okay.
Listen to me, Jerry. He needs to be your guy going forward. Just saying. No offense to anyone else.
Listen,
But
I
he's the
gotta
guy.
know somebody that knows him.
That knows who.
Jerry.
Oh, really?
I'm a hairdresser. I know a lot of people.
Okay.
I'm gonna find this out.
You network that. And let me know.
I will.
Okay, so Kyle's got me fired up for the Cowboys season.
Yeah.
So it got me so fired up. I've looked back and I've got some stats and some details about the history of the Cowboys.
Mhm.
Okay, are you ready? This
I'm
is going to
ready.
get you more excited because we're going to do it this year, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so the Cowboys are 8-time NFC champions. That means they won the whole league, went to the Super Bowl. How many Super Bowls do you think they've had? How many have they won?
One?
How many have they won?
I don't know.
They've won 5 Super Bowls.
Okay, I would have said 4.
Okay, it's been a minute since we won one. They won one. When I'm not on the team, I try not to say we too much.
Yeah.
They haven't won one since mid-90s. Anyways, so the team has 20 consecutive winning seasons.
Okay.
And they have 19 Hall of Famers. So that's how many great players that have come through Dallas.
Yeah.
So that gets me fired up. I know that
Mhm.
we've been right on the edge of thinking it's going to be great, but I think this season, I think just like Kyle said, I think we're going to start a little slow.
Mhm.
Hopefully we can go 1-1. If we're going to lose a game there, let's lose to the Bucks and not to the Bengals. So I have some bragging rights
Right.
with the in-laws.
Let's do that
So let's make sure we win game 2.
for sure.
So we come out of that 1-1, and then we're ready for the next.
Ready to
4.
go.
Yes.
Okay, well, we've got to go because do you know why?
Why is that?
Like, we've got to go. You got to practice kicking because I think there might be a spot for you.
Man, if I'm the option, we're in trouble.
And if your predictions are wrong, there might be a coaching opportunity for you as well.
There you go.
We got a lot of work to do.
That's right.
Party 5.5, over and out.
We'll see you next time.